Hey, I'm Chris the Pinball Noob, and this is part 2 of my Lethal Weapon 3 restoration. Actually, I wouldn't even call it a restoration. I'd call it a refresh. It was already in pretty good shape. I'm just fixing up a couple things here and there. In part 1, I fixed the electronics. I got all the lights working. And now in part 2, it's time to tear down the playfield, clean it up, replace rubbers, replace lights, replace targets, all kinds of stuff. The only problem is I don't know where to start.
That magic smoke.
Well, we got to start somewhere, so let's start simple with taking apart the slingshots here. If you're ever doing pinball work, definitely want to make sure you have a set of these nut drivers. They're really great for removing all the nuts on the playfield, and they don't scratch up your plastics like a wrench would. Nice and easy. So that's the first piece down. You can see how nice and clean the blue is there compared to the rest of the playfield. So hopefully this is how it should look once it's all cleaned up. Let's keep going. That's slingshot number 2 down. I actually had some trouble, you might have seen in the video, with this piece here because this nut was stuck to the center post. So I was turning the nut and it was just turning the whole center post. So I had to actually get a wrench, grab onto that nut on the center post piece, and then unscrew the top off. But not too bad. Next I'm going to go ahead and do all these plastics down around the bottom. My organization method here, and hopefully this doesn't come back and bite me later, but I put a blanket on my Genie, and I'm putting pieces where they go as I take them off the playfield. You can see how square these rubbers are. So these rubbers are definitely ready to be changed. And yeah, I'll just lay out all the playfield parts, and then when I'm done cleaning the machine, I'll put them back where they go. So I'm getting some resistance trying to pull this side here off. I don't know if there's something under the playfield that this is bolted to. I did hear something fall off when I removed the right side one, so I might have to lift up the playfield and see if there's a nut holding this in place. So this screw here gave me some trouble. Apparently there's some kind of nut on the underside of the playfield. And I lifted the playfield up to try to see what was under there, and it's under the whole flipper assembly. So I wasn't able to get down there. So I ended up just kind of tilting it and applying pressure while I unscrewed it until it finally let loose from the nut. But it's another one off. Next I'm going to work on removing these big ramps because they kind of cover everything else. So I need to get them out of the way. That's one ramp free. Actually, I'm going to do the building and then the ramp. Actually, I'm going to put the building back on, flip the playfield up, and see if there's a wire harness I can unhook because it's all soldered in currently. So there was a wiring harness I was able to disconnect. So we should be able to pull this off now. Why am I removing the building? Not entirely sure. I could probably clean this playfield without taking the building off. But since this is probably the first time this has been cleaned in a long time, kind of want to be thorough. I don't think I can pull the wiring harness off until I get this ramp off. Can't get this ramp off until I get this wireform off. But I think I can get the wireform off now. The building is moved. Alright, that wasn't easy, but I got the building off. I had to fit this through that little hole there. Alright, so getting this piece off was actually a huge struggle because all these little bolts were sort of pulling it in opposite directions, and I really didn't want to break this piece of plastic, so I had to pretty carefully try to shimmy it off these posts without snapping anything, because this is an old piece of plastic right here, so it was a little nerve-wracking, but I got it. I keep stopping the video to take pictures, which is very important when taking a playfield apart, because at some point you're going to have to put it all back together. It's really easy to forget where everything goes. These flasher bulbs, I'm going to leave them where they are. I can clean around them well enough, and this is under the building, so it doesn't need to be. It's already pretty clean, and you won't be able to see it anyway. And here it is, a completely naked, almost completely naked, Lethal Weapon 3 playfield. There are a couple things I didn't remove. I'm not going to take off these wire forms here. I'm going to leave the flasher bulbs. I'll just kind of clean around them. I can unscrew them and move them around and clean if I need to. There's some posts like these that are really reinforced into the playfield. I think they're screwed in from underneath. So I'll probably leave those and polish around them. And I'm also not sure what I'm going to do about like this big piece of metal that goes all the way around. And this piece of metal too here. I can't remove this one because it's riveted into the playfield. So I'll just clean around those and polish them in place. But yeah, otherwise, this thing is all stripped down and ready for a wash. There is this weird little paper sleeve over this flasher bulb for some reason. I guess just to keep it from bleeding out through the whole plastic. Thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, it's ready for some work. So I'm going to clean it. Then I'm going to start replacing targets. And we'll be getting closer to done. Still a lot to do. And then, of course, putting the whole thing back together scares me a little bit, but I'll figure it out. Then over here is my workbench on the Genie. Hi, Genie. Where I have all the parts laid out, all the ramps, all the plastics, all the posts and screws in their original places. I kept some of the rubbers in place too, just to remind me of where to put things. And then at some point, I have to go through and replace every single one of these little posts with their new rubbers. So yeah, it'll be a lot, but it's going to look nice when it's done. So last night I took all the metal stuff off the Playfield. I laid it all out. I cataloged it. I took a million pictures to make sure I'd remember where everything went back. And then I washed it all in the ultrasonic cleaner. And I put it all in here for a tumble. So it's done tumbling. I have it set up here in my downstairs closet to keep it nice and quiet, because it does make a little bit of noise. I put it in overnight with some mag and aluminum polish in some corncob tumbling medium. Let's see how it looks. You can already see some screws poking out. I want to see some of the bigger metal pieces. The posts look really nice. One of the problems with tumbling is you gotta knock all the corn cob out of any holes in your stuff. But let's see, here's one. Yeah, look at how nice and shiny that came out. That was really dull. I wouldn't say it was corroded, but it was just dull and dirty. No, it's nice and shiny. So I'm gonna spend some time, go through here, fish out everything. Here's one of the one of the kicker hole covers that sits over the kicker holes. Pretty gross also, and now it looks like brand new basically. I really do enjoy tumbling the metal pieces because they come out so good. So that'll make the game look nice and shiny. This is the gate. Got a wire attached to it. But this is the gate when you plunge the ball, or the flap for the gate at least. I took it apart, but yeah, let me fish all these out and we can lay them back out and figure out where they go. One quick tip if you're doing tumbling is grab one of these magnets on a stick on a telescoping pole like this. And when you want to grab stuff out, you just run it through, pick it all up magnetically. This really helps when you're trying to get washers and stuff that just sit on the bottom and are pretty impossible to find. Alright, I got the playfield stripped and I got a lot of the pieces cleaned. Now the main thing I got to do is clean the playfield itself. I got my naphtha, I got the windows open because this stuff stinks real bad. And I have some microfiber cloths and I'm just going to start scrubbing. And I'll see how clean I can get it. Depending on how bad some of these ball trails are, I've got Novus too. That's kind of my last resort, and I'll scrub that and see if I can take off the ball trails. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. So I'm done with the naphtha wash, and this playfield is already looking so much better. Mel's face here, before it looked like he had sideburns. This dirt pattern was so dark. That's looking pretty clear. These faces are looking good. These faces are looking good. There's still a little bit you can see, especially on some of these really commonly worn paths. Still a little bit of dirt ground in, and especially coming from down here, the shooter lane is a pretty prominent ball trail. And then around the orbit, there's a little bit, especially, yeah, over here on the upper right side of the orbit on the playfield. So what I'm going to do next is get a little Novus 2 on a washcloth and do some deep scrubbing, try to get rid of some of these ball trails. There's some in the in lane here too, and the out lane. So yeah. So I just did a little bit of scrubbing with the Novus 2 on Mel's face here, and already it looks way better than just with the naphtha. There was a little bit of visible dirt pattern before, and now it's just gone. I'll put up a before and after picture. I'll put up a before, middle, and after picture, and you can see the 3 stages. But yeah, this is already looking great. So I'm going to do some more Novus 2 scrubbing. So I have finished all the cleaning at this point. I started with the naphtha, then I went to Novus 2. I actually just used Novus 2 over the whole playfield. I wasn't sure how abrasive it was going to be or how good at cleaning it was going to do. But it did really well, so I just went ahead and Novus 2 the whole thing, just with the microfiber cloth. And then in a couple spots, especially down here by this big ball trail coming out of the shooter lane, I used some magic eraser, just a little bit. There was a line going all the way. You can still kind of see it in the light here, but going all the way from the shooter lane all the way across the playfield. And with the magic eraser, it's pretty much gone. But as you can see, it was some dirt was really deeply embedded, and I just couldn't quite get that all out. There were a couple ball trails in the in lanes and out lanes. You can see a little bit right there. So I scrubbed those with magic eraser as much as I felt comfortable, but I didn't want to get to the point where I was taking off paint or anything. So anyway, I got it looking pretty good. I think it's just about as clean as it's going to get, and I'm pretty happy with it. So the next step at this point is to wax. So I got some P21S Carnauba wax. Carnauba wax. I don't know how you say that. But this was highly recommended. So I'm going to put a layer of wax on and then wax it off like a Karate Kid. So let's see how that goes. So I've let the wax dry for about 10 minutes. You can see there's kind of a dull sheen over the playfield. So I've got a clean microfiber cloth, and now I just wipe it off and it should polish up super nice and shiny. And yeah, already trying to get the light reflection so you can see it. But everywhere I wipe, it's looking real nice and shiny. So let me go ahead and finish this up. And with that final buffing, the playfield is done. Looks real nice. It's real slick, smooth surface now. And it just looks good. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. Definitely a time-consuming process, but I'd say the results are worth it. And if you're wondering why I left all the old bulbs in while I cleaned and waxed and everything, it's because I didn't want wax getting in the bulb sockets. I didn't want to put new bulbs in and get wax on them and then have to clean them afterwards. So I left the old bulbs, and now I can just take them out and toss them or keep them as backups. And now I can go ahead and put new bulbs in, which is exciting. I'm pretty much done with the cleaning. Next thing I have to do is replace these broken stand-up targets and replace the broken drop target, and then start putting it back together. You can see my pile of parts over there. All that has to go back on here somehow. I did take notes, but I hope I took enough. But yeah, we're getting there. It's looking good.